Today on the channel, we've got Transformers Legacy United, Tigerhawk on the way I got it figured.
The way I got it figured.
What's up, figures fans? Where I got it figured, back with another Transformers Legacy United review. This time, we're looking at Leader Class Tigerhawk. I picked this figure up at on Hasbro Pulse when he was released, like I think in January. It was definitely January. Just now getting around to getting him reviewed. But you know, we're here. Tigerhawk is a figure I was anticipating greatly. One of my favorite figures of all time. In the early, well, I wouldn't say early days, but like in the 90s, the early 2000s, was my Beast Wars Transmetal 2 Tigerhawk figure. I ended up selling it and getting rid of a lot of my Beast Wars and early Chug stuff. So I was definitely all about it when they announced this one. And, it's nice to have him back in the collection. So we're going to go over him like we do all our figures, go over the box, get them out, transform them, check that mode out, and do a couple of comparisons, get you out here with some final thoughts. So starting off with the packaging, got the new Legacy United logo, Tigerhawk flying through that other place, might be Cybertron, might be somewhere else, we're not 100% sure. And still got your open faced box here. Leader class figure. Kind of wish they maybe change that, because I've seen a couple of figures where somebody will remove the head. On the side, you got your close up of Tigerhawk and an action pose. Shooting his wrist blaster. On the other side, you have one half of the Magmatron 40th anniversary of Transformers. Tigerhawk flying overhead. And on the back, you've got Tigerhawk in both modes. Changes in an astounding 43 steps. And of course, you got your other Legacy United logo. There's his box. Let's get him out and see what we can see. Alright, so we've got Tigerhawk out of the package with all of his accessories sort of deployed on him. And we're going to go over them in turn, since they're sort of like parts of his body. So, a little bit about Tigerhawk. He was an amalgamation of the characters of Air Razor and Tigatron. They were sort of killed off in the show, but transformed into Tigerhawk, who was a agent of a species called the Vok that was manipulating events in the Beast Wars. And the figure, is a great character based on that combination. It's very powerful and all that kind of jazz. Here we've got the figure, and he's pretty cool. He's definitely not as white and blue in the transmetal sense as the original. and you'll see that when I do the comparison. But he is he's pretty cool as an updated version of that character. He still has his translucent green parts. They did keep that. Of course, now his arm blaster is a separate accessory that supports blast effects, as well as the two guns that are on his sort of wings. They support blast effects. And now, of course, there's no motion. There's no means of firing his weapons like on the other one. But he is very nicely styled. And articulation wise, you know, he's got all of the correct articulation and ratcheted legs, but you can hear them. Poses pretty good. He has a waist swivel, of course, underneath his little tail feather joint. Head looks down, not so far up, but it's still pretty posable. The wings are able to be positioned, and he does have ankle pivot. So there's that. Obviously the bicep swivel, elbow bend. His hands do not. He doesn't have wrist swivel essentially. But you know, for a Transformers figure, he's pretty articulated, considering he has to transform into something else. But just to look at him, just the styling of him, you know, he's really cool. On the back, you got the guns. Which actually come off and go on the bottom of his wings, I guess. And of course now, instead of like the feathers being, I'll use this one, being all just a part of his wing, you can give him sort of like swords with these. That's kind of a weapon upgrade for Tigerhawk. And the front of his feet are kind of tiny, but he does have these large sort of things to give him some stability in the back. Looks like I need to use his wing to kind of help him stand up. Interestingly enough, of course, these guns, you know, the wings do make them sort of back heavy. There you go. Yeah, but it's definitely, you know, definitely a more than decent, you know, figure. For most of us, we're just gonna stand him on the shelf, and that'll be that. And he certainly will do that. But he's plenty posable. You can, you know, play with him as an action figure for sure. So I guess next what we'll do is get him transformed into Tigerhawk mode, I guess, and go from there. So just give me a sec. Be right back. All right, So we've got Tigerhawk in beast mode, and you know, it's pretty cool. You have some difficulties in transforming them. The entire thing rests in this sort of gimbal in the middle, in the center here. You're supposed to tab in his chest, and as you can see, mine is like difficult to tab in, but not impossible. It's sort of tabbed in. Kind of annoys me when that happens, but it's not the worst. He's got his giant cannons, and you do get some functionality on the head. His jaw opens and closes. And you do kind of lose the old sort of Battle Cat style mask over that he had back in the day. But he's, you know, he's overall a functional figure. He will sort of make you long for the old days with the playability factor. And I'm going to bring in, just for a sec, OG Tigerhawk. And with the wingspan, you know, they take up a lot of the frame. But this one just had, you know, some extra bells and whistles that the original just doesn't have. I mean, she had the launching feathers, and I don't know where the feathers are. They're not here. And of course, you know, the bubble arm was down at the bottom. You got your tiger mask. So there are some couple of trade-offs you got to kind of get with on the new one, you know, but this one is a little bit more of a modern figure, of course. So, you know, there's that. But I mean, I'm sure there are people who are like, well, I still have my old Tigerhawk. I'm not gonna get this new Tigerhawk. And that probably, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, this is actually not my Tigerhawk. Like I said, I sold mine. I borrowed this from my good friend Robert, so that I could do the comparison in the review. But there you go, Tigerhawk in tiger mode. So we're gonna get them, you know, transformed back into robot mode so that we can do some comparisons. All right, so Tigerhawk is back in robot mode, and we're going to do a couple of comparisons with him. So obviously, always got to bring in Optimus Prime for scale. As you can see, he's a little bit bigger than Optimus. If he's standing at his full height, rather than in the sort of dynamic pose that I put him in. So we stand him up straight here and get a better idea. Robot mode head to head. And of course, we all know that in Beast Wars, they were all like tiny, but you know, when you want all your Transformers to be playing in the same sandbox, this makes sense from a size perspective. So yeah, pretty good size on this guy. Not a midget by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, so I think that's going to be good for this one. And we're going to move on to final thoughts. final thoughts on Legacy United Leader Class Beast Wars Universe Tigerhawk. I do think he's a good figure, not necessarily a great figure. He has, pretty good articulation. He has a good appearance. His transformation is a little fidgety, and, compared to the old Beast Wars figure, he loses some playability, but that's, it's kind of like a minor thing. If you don't have Tigerhawk or never had Tigerhawk, this certainly will, it's Tigerhawk. So yeah, I feel like he's a good leader, not necessarily the best leader we've ever had, but he's like a solid 8. So that's what his way I got to figure. Rank's gonna be an 8 out of 10. I am glad to have him in the collection. We're gonna see how well he animates as I do. We are gonna have a small stop motion animation at the end of the video, so stick around for that. In the meantime, I'm gonna stop it here. We'll be, bringing in some more Transformers figures to review, and do some stop motions with those too. So until then, be on the lookout for those videos. And until then, everybody stay safe. Peace.
The way I got it figured.